Okay guys, before we start this video, a little bit of education about what charge should be in a vehicle, what charge should be in a battery, okay? Now, I've been running this vehicle and I have a reading about 12.9, okay? A fully charged battery will be 12.7. Half charged battery will be 12.4, 12.5, and a discharged battery will be 12 volts, okay? So generally you will never get a perfect reading from one that's sitting in a vehicle, but it's sitting off the vehicle. You can always test with it. Now, what happens when you start a vehicle, the alternator kicks in and it delivers about 14 point something volts for the system. That's what the system runs out, even though it's nominally 12 volt system. That's just the way they do it. Same with trucks, 24 volts. That will be sitting at 28 point something volts when you check it when the alternators are running. So I'll just show you. I'll just start this up, okay. That is dropping down because the surface charge is disappearing off the battery, yeah. If you have one after you've run a vehicle, it may be at 13 point something volts, put the headlights on for maybe a minute, something like that. That will take the surface charge off the battery, and then that will give you a true reading of the voltage of the battery, not the health of it. That's a different thing. This is why I want to talk about battery testers today. So I'll just start this up and I'll show you. Okay, so there you have it, all right. This is a £300 snap-on multimeter, by the way. You don't need to buy one of these. I've only bought it for the readout here, yeah. But yeah, it's about 14 something volts, yeah. If it drops down low when you put consumers on it, you know what that means, don't you? You've got a problem, but usually they run at about that voltage. Okay, so let's carry on with the video now. Alright then guys, hello, welcome back. Today there is no doom and gloom, there's no message of war or pestilence or food shortages. I'll let everybody else do that if they want to do it and get in their mind state. We're here dealing with reality, and one of those is physical realities of batteries and charging systems on a motor vehicle, okay? Couple of things I want to tell you about. One of those is jump leads, and the other is a battery charging system tester, which I actually acquired from my other channel to review. So I'm going to pass on some more information to you, which I think is actually quite valid for preppers, right? So when I was a young lad and I was a technician learning, I worked with a guy, and we didn't have many electronic test equipment things. Mainly things were all analog with needles and wires and stuff, yeah. Things have moved on quite a lot. 35 years later, we have all sorts of test equipment. However, the old-fashioned jump lead is always valid, regardless of whether you have one of those jump packs or not. Simply because maybe the jump pack won't deliver sustained power if you need to prime up your system if you have fuel issues, okay. Now, these are not connected, and a guy that I used to work with a long time ago, he got the jump leads and went like this. Yeah, that's got charge in it, yeah. But he did it one time, got it stuck together because it fused almost immediately, melted the wires and blew up the battery. Yes, nasty mess because you have acid in there. If you get that in your eyes, big problems, yeah. These are connected but not connected to the battery, all right. So, jump leads in general, you want the heaviest duty that you can possibly get, and usually you have to make them up yourself. If you can get at least 500 to 600 amp rating on the cables, then you are laughing, okay? The thinner the cable, the more power that gets drawn through that cable for a sustained period of time, the more resistance and heat you get. And they'll either melt, deform, or cause some other problem. So you want heavy duty leads, generally not from a motor factors, okay. Go somewhere that sells commercial vehicle stuff, yeah. I'm not plugging commercial vehicle stuff, I'm just telling you it's heavier duty, okay. Generally a vehicle, if it has a battery of 500 CCA cold cranking amps, okay, what it will do, it will give sustained amperage for a short amount of time to get a starter motor cranked over, okay. So there's a lot of inertia when a starter motor turns over. It does draw amperage, okay. So if you are having a flat battery and you're connecting another battery to it, okay, you've then got to put a little bit of charge in that battery first before it'll pass through, okay. So there's a lot of amperage you're dealing with, okay. So 5 to 600 amp rating is ideal, okay? As I say, 500 CCA on that battery, that's cold cranking amps available for a short amount of time. Yeah, so pay attention to that. Small ones you get from Halfords are a waste of time. They are a waste of time. They melt, they're too short. So generally what we can do, I can walk right over here and I can jump start your car, can't I? Or your truck, yeah? So yeah, these are my jump leads, had them for years actually, and you can see they have been melted in anger. That was the weakest point, the heat that came off these. The cable's okay, yeah? So that's all good. Yeah, that is generally an EDVC. It's not ready to go in a tool bag. You can have it in your garage, or well, if you have to have it in your vehicle because you want to assist with jump starts, fine. But the other thing, the other use for jump start cables is to link batteries together, so you can have parallel 12 volt, which is positive to positive, negative to negative. That doubles your amperage, yeah. Or you can have 24 volt, which is positive, negative, for instance, yeah. So literally for 24 volt, you only need one jump lead, yeah, just between the positive and negative on one. So that's just some thoughts, okay. Now what I want to get onto is this battery tester, which is Top Don BT100. Now I reviewed this tiny little electronic device, and that's all you need. It's a glove box type of thing, and this is good for you to check your battery condition, which you really need to do for maintenance anyway, but it will also check how much draw your starter motor has. So for instance, you're cranking it over, what will happen, the voltage will drop as the amperage draw increases. The voltage drops in the system. Now if it goes too low, because the starter motor is drawing a lot of energy, you'll notice it if your stereo cuts out. That's dropped below a threshold of maybe 10 volts or 11 volts, yeah. But if it's too low, the vehicle won't start. You can crank it over and it'll be hard to start because there's not enough available voltage for anything else in the system. Fuel injectors take a fair bit of voltage, or they give out a fair bit of voltage, and the power has to go through capacitors and the ECU. That's a bit complicated there. It increases the voltage and then fires it off to the injectors, yeah. There's not enough voltage available at the battery because the starter motor is drawing too much amperage, then you do have problems, yeah. Generally you do get warnings because you can hear the starter motor is really sluggish, yeah. So this will test that, and usually it's an indication of corroded terminals or a starter motor that's worn out. Usually the internal components of the motor winding, something like that, okay. The other thing with this, now this is the good thing with this, it checks your charging system, but what it does, it checks is, the ripple, which is AC leakage, or it checks the diodes within the alternator, okay. So I think I need to explain this if you don't know. Diodes are one-way blockers to let current go through one way. They also convert alternating current. I nearly said accumulating current. This is one of those glitches I had when I was at MECTEC. It's alternating current that the alternator generates, but what happens, it gets converted into direct current through those diodes, yeah? After a while, the diodes may break down and you get more alternating current leakage through into the DC, which can affect electronic components in the vehicle. Some of those will be something like a tachometer, for instance, or the rev counter. The rev counter will be erratic, yeah, or it could affect other ECUs in the system. Yeah, so that's something to be mindful of, and this will actually check for that, and it will tell you whether it's good or bad. Right, so easy, simple check. Now, on my other video, I showed using an oscilloscope just to give some sort of visual confirmation of what I'm looking at. And this just does it very, very simply, okay? Now, the biggest one, especially for preppers, you've got a situation where batteries are very hard to get hold of. You find somebody who's got a second-hand battery and you don't know what the condition is. Well, what do? You stick one of those on the battery and test it, yeah? You know then straight away whether you're having your pants pulled over your head or not, yeah? All saying yes or no. Yeah, that battery's okay, I'll have that, or no, I'm not having that, that's no good. And in the worst case scenario, and you know that how the films are, where you get vehicles scattered about all over the place and you have to find a battery for your vehicle, then all you need to do is keep going around vehicles until you find one that's in good condition. And if we get into that sort of condition, that sort of state, the apocalypse type of state, I can imagine there won't be very many good batteries laying about just for your for you to take. Yeah, but this is it. This is the type of thing you test things. Don't guess and don't use the jump lead type of spark test. But obviously it's valid because you can see it. You can see the spark. You know you've got energy there, but you don't know how much, and you don't know the internal condition of the battery. This gives you the health of it and internal resistance as well, which you can see here. Very high internal resistance means that the battery is either got buckle plates or it's very heavily furred, or there's a plate gone or something like that. The lower the resistance inside the battery, obviously the better it is, because you can bring the health up of batteries. Now this company Topdon, they sent me this, but I did actually do a review of a smart battery charger, and I got results out of it. I don't know if you know anything about repair facilities on battery chargers. It's fairly hit and miss with a battery. If you've got a battery that's at 80%, you can bring it up. At 70% or 60%, you might be able to bring it up. Anything that's a dead battery that you don't get a reading on, the chances are of getting it back into any good health is probably very minimal. Yeah, but if you've got an electricity supply and you've got a battery that's a little bit under par and you've checked it, yeah, you can then go ahead and try to recover it. Yeah. Unfortunately, batteries are a bit of a hit and miss because, like alternators, it depends on the work they've had to do. These type of batteries, automotive batteries, are good for discharging a fair amount of current very quickly and then being restored by the alternator power. Okay. This is why you have something like 500 cca on the battery that says it's the capacity of what it will actually deliver over time. As the battery gets older, it will deliver less CCA, cold cranking amps. Yeah, so that's something to be aware of. You can then check again with this tester, as it will tell you. Okay. Alternators, they're an unknown quantity. If you load an alternator up with all these fancy lights and everything that's plugged into your car, and it's working too hard, it will last at less time than it will if you put less demand on it. But it's an unknown quantity. It could last 5 miles, 400,000 miles, who knows, yeah. But it's one of those things, again, it's worth checking. Now, what I didn't say about checking diodes, which is quite important, was when a diode has failed, because it's a one-way blocker, if that fails, what happens, it allows current to come back around the other way. So the battery and the alternator are hardwired together. They're always connected, and when this is at rest, the current shouldn't go any further than the diodes back from the battery. But if the diode's broken down, what will happen, it will bleed out to earth, and where you get there is a parasitic drain. That means that you're looking around your car to wonder what component is it that is just bleeding off the current very slightly. It's the type of thing where you get your car in the morning and the battery's always flat, even though it's a good battery. Yeah. So there's a few tips and things, bits of information for you to think about. Get a glove box tester. Yeah. If you are seriously prepping for SHTF, then the chances are sooner or later you are going to have to deal with either somebody to get another battery, or you're going to have to go and scavenge one from somewhere, aren't you? Yeah. And it might even come soon. If we lose supply of batteries, delivery to the UK, you just don't know, do you? So that's a tip for you. All right. So that'll do, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. All right. See you later.